Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we remove a huge German Yellowjacket nest from the soffit wall cavity above a garage doorway at a private residence. This nest was extremely active and had thousands of adult wasps and thousands more larvae and pupae in the brood comb. We collected the adult wasps over a period of several visits to the site from September 9th, 2024 through September 17th, when we finally removed the entire nest. The first half of this 1-hour episode features a lot of close-up and slow-motion footage of the attrition process, where we use vacuum extraction gear to collect thousands of adult wasps from the nest entry point outside the building. The footage illustrates the amazingly efficient foraging behavior these wasps are capable of as they bring back large amounts of insect protein to feed the larvae in the nest. We'll show you the difference between the slow-motion footage, where you can really see the detail of the wasps as they're bringing back food to the nest, and we'll compare that with the regular speed footage, and you'll see just how fast these wasps operate. The speed at which they do everything that they do is pretty incredible. Each time we visited this nest, we collected bottle after bottle full of wasps, and we watched incredible amounts of food being brought into the nest, and it really illustrated the importance of wasps in the ecosystem and how they work as biological pest control agents that keep pests from overpopulating. That's their job in the environment, and that's why we need them. But there was a tremendous number of wasps collected at this site. So we'll show you footage from the collection process each time we were there. We'll also walk you through the freezing process, where we preserve the wasp venom by flash freezing the wasps in dry ice, and we'll show you what that looks like. And then we'll take you through the last day of the footage, where we remove the actual nest itself from behind the soffit in this wall cavity where they had built it. And it was a 9-layer nest. It was a big nest filled with pupae and larvae. Every level was absolutely packed. This nest weighed several pounds when we got it out of the wall. And you'll see what it looks like in detail up close as we remove it. As you'll see in the footage, there was some new queens being born in this nest. There was some males being born in the nest, and the rest were all worker wasps. And there were still a ton of worker wasps being born here, many of which came out to attack in force when we started to remove the nest and remove some of the paper from it. We were vacuuming as many off our veil as we were from the nest at some points, just to make sure that we could see what we were doing. So every now and then, German Yellowjackets will attack in force. They're usually one of the more laid-back species we deal with. But in a situation like this, a big active nest and you're directly attacking it, they'll come out and attack you. They're all over the gloves, as you see here. So you got to be careful, and you got to suit up properly. As you see here, we were able to remove the nest in one intact piece. All 9 layers came out, and it was just a super busy nest. So what we did was contain it in a separate container, and we'll walk you through the process of what we did with it then. There were so many live wasps in between the layers of this comb structure that we just went ahead and vacuumed them off of the comb as we separated them. And we were also hunting for the queen at this point, because we wanted to make sure that we found the original foundress queen. She's always pretty easy to identify because she's so large. Here's the queen being captured, and when you compare her to a worker, as you see here, she's much larger. And they're both stinging now, so they're both stuck in the glove. That made it a little bit easier to contain her and get a very good look at her. And she also looks different than the new queens that are born in the nest, which the new queens are kind of rounder and more full-bodied. She's more longer. Her abdomen's elongated from doing so much egg laying that she's been doing thousands of eggs in this nest. So when we found her, we were pretty confident that she was the main queen in this nest. Once that was done, we went ahead and did a little follow-up and collected more foragers as they came back to where the nest used to be. And we collected as many as we could. And as you see here, we had another full bottle collected on this day. So let's take you back to September 9th, 2024, and we'll show you the entire process from the initial collections on different days while we were doing attrition to get the population down, all the way through to when we removed the nest. We hope you enjoy the close-up, slow-motion footage. It's pretty interesting to watch. If you haven't seen that sort of thing before, it's definitely worth a look. If you enjoy the channel and you enjoy the content, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. Enjoy the show. This first day of filming on this nest was from September 9th of 24. And we are at a private residence in town that has Yellowjackets entering their soffit space on a brick wall. They're either in this vertical soffit or they're in the eave soffit. Either way, very active nest. It looks like a high population nest. Lots of traffic coming in and out with protein inbound for the larva. So what we're going to do is go ahead and set up the vac and do some attrition collection here. They may have two nests. We also see activity at the other corner right down here, or one large one that spans right across. So we'll see which entry point leads to the most traffic. So about half this episode is going to contain a lot of close-up, slow-motion footage to illustrate how these wasps bring back giant chunks of insect protein for their nest. As you can see here, they're bringing back pieces of meat that are pest insects that they hunted in the wild that are so heavy they can barely manage to get them back to the nest. Constantly, all day long, they hunt like this and bring back food for the nest. You'll see flight after flight of inbound food deliveries, and you'll also see them coming out of the nest with some of the debris from inside the nest that they're digging out to make more room for the nest. So you see two different types of behaviors here. Wherever yellowjackets make nests, whether it's in cavity spaces in buildings or underground, they are amazing engineers and diggers. They'll expand that space to whatever size they need, whether it's going through wood, paper, insulation, dirt underground, whatever it is, they're going to remove enough of it so that they can grow to whatever size they need. What you see here is a worker wasp trying to remove a dead wasp that got stuck right in the entry crevice. So it's in the way of food deliveries and it's in the way of wasps coming out to hunt. So it's trying to chew it up and remove it. Wherever they make nests, wasps will make sure that their entry hole is very clear and large, and they will do their best to remove any debris, even if it's a dead fellow wasp. Because as you can see, there's a tremendous amount of traffic coming and going all day. They need the room. Here you can see the dead wasp, which is just above the wasp is trying to pull it out. So the one that's working on trying to pull it out is just chewing off the antenna, chewing off the legs, trying to make a way to get this out. And above the dead wasp, you see a giant chunk of protein that was brought back by one of the worker wasps. And the worker wasp is trying to figure out how to get this huge meatball into that tight crevice so it can be dragged into the nest. So you see the big meatball being sort of pulled back into the nest, and the wasp has a real hard time trying to get this amount of food into that small space. But we see this fairly often. The food that they bring back is so big and so heavy they can barely lift it and barely fly with it, and when they get it back they have to negotiate how to get the thing into their nest. Sometimes it just simply doesn't fit, so they have to pull it back out, chew it up some more, which is called malaxation. They chew it up with their large mouth parts, which are mandibles, and they eventually make the thing small enough to drag it into the nest. But they work and work and work until they get that done. And this is why it's so important to remove this dead wasp from this space. They simply don't have the room. They need to get that space cleared for the efficiency of the nest. We shoot this in real time here. You just see how many wasps keep coming in, getting sucked up by the vacuum device, food load after food load coming back. I mean, it's constant like this all day long at a busy nest. It's like a busy airport. And here we'll slow the footage down, and in slow motion you can just really appreciate the amount of work, air traffic control, and the amount and the size of the food load deliveries that they bring back. It's pretty incredible. So we're going to spend about half of this video, maybe half an hour or so of the video, going back and forth with slow motion footage, close up, to give you a really clear idea of what this all looks like, what the collection process looks like, what the food delivery process looks like, how many wasps are coming and going constantly at this nest. It's just an interesting thing to see. For those of you not particularly fascinated by this type of footage, you can just skip ahead to the nest removal part of the video, which is the second half of the video. But if you're interested in how wasps live moment to moment, day to day, and what they actually do in the ecosystem when they come back to the nest with all that food, have a look. This is pretty unique footage you don't see every day. This also illustrates how you would deal with a nest that you can't access in a wall. If you can't get to a nest, but it's in your building, just set up a vacuum like this. And as you see, these food deliveries just keep coming back one after the other. And if you continually vacuum them up as they come through with this food, then you starve out the nest because if you're taking all of the food away from the developing larva, they can't survive and they won't pupate. And if you can interrupt the pupation process, then there's no adults pupating out of the nest. And that reduces the population that the client's going to see flying around and reduces the sting risk for anyone near this nest. And eventually the nest just dies off. Here you see a wasp pulling some more debris or dug out material out of the nest. And they do this constantly throughout the day. So as more food is coming in, you're also seeing trash and debris removed from the nest all the time. A note about the food deliveries that keep coming in, as you see here, they did a study. Scientists did a study one time on a very active yellowjacket nest, and they estimated from the amount of food coming in that these wasps were capable of taking out of the environment, out of the ecosystem, 200 flies per hour. Now, if you multiply that, 200 flies per hour, by a full day, by a full week, a month, a full season, several months, you can see the value of these wasps in the ecosystem. That one study focused on flies, but they do the same thing with all the pest insects. Caterpillars, moth larvae, crickets, earwigs, other wasps even. Wasps directly help control the populations of all of these things. For the next few minutes here, we're just going to show you some footage of the wasps being collected. And we're going to slow it down so you can see how their aerodynamics are affected when they get into the vacuum hose stream and it pulls them down into the vacuum device. You'll see how some are very wary. They are very careful. They're trying to avoid what they perceive as a threat around the entry hole of the nest, but they're so driven to get back to the nest, and there's only that one entry point, that they take the risk. Some of them get by, but most of them don't. So as you view this footage, keep an eye on the wasps that are bringing back loads of protein, insect meat that they have hunted in the wild, and how that changes their aerodynamics. Their instinctual behavior is to just keep trying to get that meat back to the nest, no matter what. So you'll see some of them just dive right for the nest and get sucked into the device, and others will just keep trying and trying to avoid that suction device, but they just are driven to keep trying to get back to the nest, and eventually they get collected. So as you can see here, there's a ton of yellowjackets flying protein that's pest insects they've hunted in the wild, flying it inbound into the nest. That is what they feed their larvae, so they will do this all day long. And that's why in general, yellowjacket species, especially our native species here in North America, are extremely beneficial. Without them, the pest insect population regionally would explode out of control. So we need wasps for that reason. However, when they're in an area like this, where they're right above a doorway and that kind of thing, they're dangerous in this location, so they have to be removed. But in general, if you find them on your property in a place where they're not unsafe, they will do you a big favor all summer by reducing your pest insect population. So it's a good idea to leave them there and let them thrive in the environment, in the ecosystem, and let them do their job. This is a very busy, very active nest. Probably anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 wasps are in this nest, either already born and foraging or soon to be born by hatching out into adult wasps over the next week or two. So we'll do multiple collections here, attrition collections, and that will ultimately starve out the nest. They are looking for a way out. You can see them looking for an escape route. So we have a significant collection here. Very good for VIT. A lot of female workers. Lots of venom. There continues to be a very, very steady flow of inbound foragers bringing in lots of insect meat, all sorts of insect parts dangling out of their mouths and mandibles as they come back. So there is definitely a significant larval population in this nest eating all that food. September 11, 2024. We're back in an attrition collection. The nest seems to be right here in this section, so we're going to remove a piece of soffit today and do an exploratory hole and a scope cam to go up into this cavity and try to look at the nest. But first we're going to just remove some of this population. We have thousands out in the environment today, maybe hundreds, but we'll get probably 1,000 collected here today before we attempt to take the nest. So they're targeting this device because it makes noise, and the vent on the device brings the wasp pheromone up from the nest all the way down to the vent. And that causes them to swarm around the device until they go back to the nest. We have a scope cam. We're going to put it up here today. We removed this soffit, and we were able to find the nest right up inside this area here. So we're going to take a look with the scope today. So if we remove this bottom piece of soffit, that allows the scope cam to go up this crevice here, and we should be able to see the nest from there. We'll take the scope cam and put it right up in here. So here you see larva and wasp activity. There's larvae in the comb right there. So if you look up here, the camera scope is only about up here. So this is where you're seeing the nest. Just a few inches. It's right up here. Probably several pancaked layers from this wood piece all the way to the ceiling or the eaves. So the nest is right behind this panel, and we'll show you from here. It's right up there. We've got a good collection here. We're just trying to reduce the population before we pull the soffit and pull the nest. Vespula germanica. These are German Yellowjackets. We just vacuumed them out of a soffit space for a client. This is what they sound like. Time to freeze these wasps. September 17th, 2024. We're back at the soffit Attrition. Significant population flying today, being collected pretty readily. rodent nest all the way through here. Mud wasps on the side, but no other yellow jackets. This is the bulk of the nest. This is the entire nest right here.
Mm-hmm.
This could be our queen. That looks like her. She's quite large, and she tried to sting. You see how big she is compared to a worker. So here's the queen. She decided to sting, and so she got stuck in the glove. So we're going through to see if we can find any more queens. So far, it looks like just males, pupae, larvae, no more queens. Now we're going to take a look back here where they're clustering by the original nest location. So we've got quite a collection here. So now we're just doing follow-up. The whole nest has been removed. The rodent nest has been removed. The wasp nest has been removed. And we removed about 4 mud wasp nests. The bottle's absolutely packed with wasps. So it appears we got the bulk of the nest contained. Now we're just doing follow-up as the occasional forager comes back. They'll suck themselves up if we just leave this right next to their entry hole. They just keep coming back. Alright, so we have put all of the soffit panels back, and now we're going to spray a little bit for all these extra foragers that are coming back, just to deter them. That's it for today's episode. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. If you enjoyed the content on our channel, please do remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Have a good one.